and welcome to another episode of Stuck in My Mind podcast. I am your host, Wize, and today's guest is a veteran who's not afraid to speak the truth about what happens after service. Adam Peters, host of the Strategic Veteran podcast, has lived through the broken transition system, battled his own shadows, and now uses his platform to bring healing, community, and reform to veterans everywhere. He's proven that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's strength, and that sharing your story isn't just personal healing, it's systemic change. Let's welcome to the Stuck in My Mind podcast, Adam Peters. Hello.
What's up, brother?
Oh, man. Good. Excited to have you on, man.
Yeah, dude, this is gonna be fun, man.
So, Adam, you lived through the struggles of transition. What was your toughest personal moment after leaving the military?
Figuring out who I was without the uniform.
Mm,
Identity, by far, in a way, is the biggest problem all veterans face when they get out, and it makes sense if you think about it, because it's a system that indoctrinates you, right? They turn you into the person that they want to be, often at a young age, right? For me, it was 17, so you never have a chance to really go form your own identity outside of the authority of your parents or the authority of the military, and then you're 30 years old, standing there like, who am I now?
oh, sorry about that. When did you first realize that the DoD transition system was failing veterans?
Man, I wouldn't realize that till about 8.5 years after I got out. So
Wow.
I'd spend the first 4 years in what I call a false transition, kind of just following their roadmap, doing all the little check the box things that they tell you to do. Go to school, get your degree. You're a veteran, so you shouldn't have a problem finding a 6-figure job. Everybody's going to want to hire you because you're a veteran. And so I went to college for 4 years, got the degrees, and then entered the corporate world, and found out pretty quick nobody gives a shit if you're a veteran. They really don't care. In fact, a lot of them, I feel like a lot of them don't want what we bring to the table, because a lot of corporate America is the standard is mediocrity, do the bare minimum, and that doesn't really resonate with guys like me. Mediocrity is not acceptable where I come from, and always trying to push forward and be that leader that gets more out of you, and civilians, I find, just don't want to participate in that.
Mm. So, what did your own healing journey look like, and how did it push you toward advocacy?
Yeah, man, that's a really good question. So, like I said, it would take me 8.5 years to really figure it out. So that first 4 years was really just college, and then kind of on the other side of that, going into the insurance industry. I tried literally everything in the insurance industry, from knocking doors, selling final expense, to property and casualty, to Medicare, Medicaid, to health insurance at home. Hated it. It sucked the soul out of me. Then abandoned that because I was going broke, went back to flight school to finish up becoming an instructor, was going to take the aviation career. Ended up with having to have some surgeries that kind of kicked that can down the road and hit rock bottom. But what really woke me up to all of this was I had hit rock bottom. I was very suicidal, kind of like most veterans get. And I was pretty much going to be one of the 22 a day. And I found plant medicine, and I got real curious about it. I knew that the pills from the VA weren't the answer for me, just through seeing my buddies take them and become shells of the humans that they once were, and still were trying to kill themselves. So it was kind of like a last-ditch effort to save myself. I got picked up by Heroic Hearts Project, which is a charity that sponsors veterans to go to Tarapoto, Peru, or Mexico, and have a 7-day ayahuasca retreat. And that's what changed everything for me. I don't even know how to explain how I got started, or I just came back from that trip and I knew I had to do something more. And that's when I started leaning into what you had talked about, being vulnerable, putting my story out there, and realizing, what I was thinking and feeling as, a 13-year Army infantry veteran. I can't be alone in that. So if I just tell my story and help others tell their story, maybe it'll help save lives.
Absolutely, absolutely. You often talk about owning your story. What does that mean for veterans?
I mean, it means lean into the good, the bad, the ugly, the indifferent, man. tell it all. I think in that also keep things to yourself that you want to remain private. You don't have to tell everything, but don't be afraid to share your failures. Don't be afraid to share your wins, and not from like a boasting standpoint, but as just a lesson standpoint, because I assure you, you're going to have a whole lot more failures. And if you're sharing those, the wins won't sound like bragging. It'll be like, man, you really earned this because I've been following your journey. And just own all of it, man. That's really, you did these things. I'm kind of in this weird period right now where everybody thinks my story is interesting, but I think my story is boring, and I've lived it. That's why I think that it's boring. But every time I tell my story, and I mean, it has variations to it. It's the same story. Sometimes things are left out. Sometimes we don't have time to cover some things. We don't go as deep. But every time I tell it, somebody gets something else out of it, and it allows me to continue to go up there and talk about myself even more and even more, even though it's uncomfortable, even though I don't think it's a great story. It's because I've lived it. I've lived enough life that I guess everybody can draw lessons because I've chosen to be vulnerable in my story.
Yeah, absolutely. Mhm. So, how did the Strategic Veteran podcast come about? What did you hope to create?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So it actually the name came from a follower in my comments. So they named the whole personal brand, if you will. And then the actual podcast idea came from a mentor. I was challenged by a mentor to network with people in my local area, reach out to 3 or 4 people who live around you on LinkedIn or whatever social media platform is your choice. Just ask if hey, I find what you're doing really interesting. Are you up for coffee, a meeting in person, shake hands, and have a chat? And so I did that. I reached out to this guy, and I met him over at Disney Springs on a Sunday afternoon, and I proceeded to walk around for 6 hours and get a master class in what I should be doing, and based on he's a few steps ahead of me, and his success and what he knew about growing a brand online. And his first words to me after about 15 minutes of walking around was like, "You're not the guy that gets his message across sitting behind a keyboard. Have you thought about doing a podcast?" And I just dove right in, man. I came home that Sunday and I got started, and then 3 weeks later, I launched the first episode of the podcast, and I haven't looked back since. So I originally started the podcast with the idea that the path back to purpose for veterans was through entrepreneurship. But after I recorded early episodes, I really realized the problem is in transition. And so I kind of pivoted, and now that's what I talk about is where the DoD is failing the transition process and what you can do to help yourself on the other side of it. So kind of my theme is I just want to be the guy I didn't have.
Mhm. Did you face any resistance when you started speaking so openly about trauma and transition?
No, I didn't. In fact, I think it compounded growth because here is a guy saying the quiet parts out loud. The things that people are often afraid to say. I just kind of looked at it like I'm not a DoD employee anymore. I have no ties to the Army or the U.S. government, so I can talk openly about this, as bad or as good as I want, and hopefully it'll land where it needs to, and hopefully it'll resonate. And then on top of that, man, like I'm speaking to my people. Like I am a member of this community. I am a veteran who is a combat veteran. So I think I'm uniquely qualified to speak about this the way that I speak about it because I know how to communicate with these people. And so I think it just amplified growth, to be honest. I get a little pushback here and there, but in the grand scheme of things, I really don't have any haters.
That's awesome.
It's pretty cool. I mean, I wish the haters would come because, haters double growth just because if you have a solid audience, they'll have your back and it just kind of feeds the algorithm. But, it's really onesies and twosies, and it's mostly older Vietnam type veterans who just kind of haven't opened their mind to, just the way they were treated when they came home, and they're older now. And it's kind of, this sounds really bad, but it's, I mean, they're kind of in stage of their life. So it's kind of too late for them, if you will. And so they're the ones who give me a little pushback. Well, the military is in the business of training warfighters, not in the business of training you how to be a civilian. And it's like, well, they're obligated to do that by contract. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
And I can imagine, because that was a generation of the Vietnam veterans, was a generation that was just really completely lost. They didn't get no support, anything. So I can imagine them still feeling bitter and angry at the fact that, listen, look at what we've been through.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, I can imagine how difficult it could have been for them. So and I can imagine why this question. But what makes your approach to transition different from the typical resume and interview process?
Because all that shit's a lie, man. I don't advocate for anybody to listen to what I call noise, meaning society's drawn this box that they say we should play in, and I'm advocating that you make your own decision, meaning you either play in that box if you fit in that box, or if you don't fit in that box, you go educate yourself and learn about the resources that are out there to become an entrepreneur or make your own way in the world. I also really advocate, like, it's not about money. It's not about money. It's not about money. When you let go of money and your attachment to money, other than basic needs, you actually find a lot of joy in life, and things really do start to fall into place where they should. And then money actually starts finding you, whether you know where it's coming from or not. At least that's been my experience. So I really advocate for everybody to sit down and have the hard conversation with themselves and ask themselves what they want, not what their wife wants, not what their kids want, not what their parents want, grandparents, friends, the army, whatever it may be. Tune out all of that noise. Have the conversation with yourself. What do I want? What does Adam Peters want out of life? And that'll give you a really good starting point for where to go.
Mm. How can facing trauma and shadows actually make veterans stronger leaders?
So, man, such a great question. Jordan Peterson's famous for a quote he about trauma. He says the only way out is through. And I really believe that. Through a lot of conversations I've had, I'd like to use a little analogy here. The distance between cells in our body is like the distance between the earth and the moon. So if you can imagine, trauma has a lot of places to hide in your body. So if you continue to run away from it, it's just going to move around in your body. If you actually address it and you face it head on and you work through it, then it has nowhere to hide anymore, and you actually get rid of it and you become stronger on the other side of it. I also think that being a good leader means you practice what you preach. So if you're not willing to face your own trauma, what qualifies you to be a leader?
Mm. Oh
You
yeah,
know?
absolutely. And yeah, and that's something. And not, I think many people in just even civilians, that's how they had to. You have to deal with your trauma. You have to deal with what you went through in life, and so you can move on and advance. So yeah, definitely, it all ties in together.
Yeah.
You create safe space for veterans to share. How does storytelling heals?
That's a really good question too, man. I love all these questions, by the way. These are fire. So storytelling, it's not even story. I mean, it is storytelling, but when you share your story and you put it out there for somebody to stumble across on the internet, you have no idea what state of mind they're in, where they're at in their life, or if your story carries something that they resonate with. Meaning, I started the podcast because I thought if I tell transition stories and just help veterans tell what they've been through, what they're feeling on the other side of coming out of the uniform, and the challenges they've dealt with through that, it could reach another veteran who thinks he's alone, or she thinks that they're alone in what they're going through or what they're feeling. Because oftentimes it's what we do as veterans. We're taught to swallow it, compartmentalize it, don't think about it, right? And often that leads to, man, I'm the only one in the world going through this. Well, that's absolutely not true. And so by just me telling my story and then bringing over 150 people on to tell their stories, it now reaches so many more people. And I get messages all the time that come across it, man. I listen to your podcast every week. I can't wait for the next vet that you bring on to tell their story. I see myself in a lot of your guests. It's incredible, man. And so I think that's the answer to your question, man, is it just encourages other people to tell their story, which in turn I think helps them face whatever it is that they're going through, because then you start to open up and you talk about it. And if you have a conversation with me, I might be able to point out some things where you could reframe some things, or give you some tools in that conversation to help you move past that negative emotion that you're experiencing or whatever. And it just happens in like a natural conversation instead of like the scary couch therapy session, if you will.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And that's one of the reasons that I started my podcast, was to help others overcome and have people like yourself come and share your story, because it's important, man. People need to see that. Listen, regardless of what you've gone through in life, whatever it is you're battling, you can overcome it and turn your life around. And the thing is, the amazing thing is, you've found your purpose, man. You've found, which is amazing, because I know when I discovered that I wanted to help people, I wanted to serve others, and through my podcast and through doing all this other stuff that I'm doing, it gives you that feeling like, man, all right, I got to keep doing my podcast, because when you get those comments, just like when you say, when people reach out to you and leave a comment, hey, thank you for that. When you get those comments from people, and you get those emails like, oh man, that episode with you and such person was amazing. Thank you. I needed to hear such. That like lifts your spirit so much. That shows you like, man, that to me is success, when I'm able to make an impact on someone's life like that.
Yes, man.
It's not
And
the monetary part. It's the part that
nope.
I'm touching somebody's life, and I'm helping shape them and change them, because they're like, I needed to hear this episode. I needed to hear what they were talking about. That to me is the most important part of my podcast, or anything I do, is being able to impact someone's life like that.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, the podcast is a selfish thing for me because it helps me
For
continue to
joy.
heal.
Yeah.
Right? I think you're saying basically the same thing,
Mhm.
and even moreover, like I just want to have I spent a lot of years being a terrible human being. Just from the way I was raised to then doing what I did as an infantryman for 13 years, 4 deployments, that kind of thing, to the other side now is like I just want to be the best human to other humans that I can be, and I want to have a positive impact. So I want this interaction with you in 15 years. I want you to look back and know that this conversation maybe had a small part in you taking a step forward in your journey, and that's success to me, man. That's it's just incredible. It fills my cup up so much, and it just brings me so much joy. Like you were saying, to get those messages, I needed to hear this right now. I just did a call with a vet this morning who kept calling me sir, and it's an honor to meet you, and I respect you so much. And I'm like, dude, stop. Like, I'm a real human. Like, I'm a normal person. Just talk to me like a normal person. I don't need all the admiration. I'm not here for likes and follows and attention. I'm just here to be the guy I didn't have. And by you reaching out, that means it works. And I couldn't be more pleased with that. That's all I want.
And we have somebody dropping actually left a comment, man. Thank you for your service. And listen, Adam, definitely thank you, Adam, for your service, and we greatly appreciate all the veterans out there who have served this country. And yeah, this is why I do it. When you get messages like that, that's another reason I love going live sometimes, right? Because you get those comments where people come in and they'll leave a message like that, and that's what motivates me. That's what pushes me, because when you get those comments and people appreciate what you're doing, it's the best feeling in the world, man. Like I tell people, like, I love doing my podcast. I get to. At one point, I felt very selfish because I was enjoying and learning from it so much,
Yeah.
and just getting to experience and talk to these people and learn about their mindsets and how they had to overcome what they did. It was like, man, like, okay, I'm enjoying this way, but a guest pointed out to me that, but you're sharing the content. You're putting out. It's not like you're just keeping the podcast and listening to yourself. You're sharing it out there. You're putting up. You're sharing these people with other people, So you're doing what you're supposed to do, and it was just that made me just change. Like, all right, yeah. So I'm going to embrace the fact that I love doing the podcast, and I love it. That the fact that I get to learn so much from so many different people.
I think the coolest part for me is, man, who knew that just having regular conversations with people could be so impactful, not only in my life but in other people's lives. And I think you may understand this on a level that maybe the listeners don't, but it's the people you never know that you're reaching because they don't engage. It's I have a couple of partners, through the personal brand and that I do stuff with, and they're gracious enough to tell me like, hey man, you have driven X number of people to this thing over here, whether you know it or not. And it's like, I didn't know that. I had no idea, right? Like all I know is what I can see. It's the stuff I can't see
Yeah.
that really makes me happy, man, because it's like, oh, so this really does work. Like this really does reach people. Like I just realized we were live. That's on me. I probably should, but think about all the people that are probably listening to this that you can't see are actually tuned in, that'll never comment on this. And to think in my head, like, man, how many people are we helping right now just by having this conversation?
Hmm.
We'll never know. We'll never know.
But it's to me, it's worth it.
It is.
It's so worth it for me, especially just the one comment that shows me like I've impacted one person.
Yeah.
They're seeing that like, okay, yeah, that this I needed this message. I needed to hear this talk. I needed to see that. Look, regardless of what you've been through in life, that you can overcome it and turn your life around.
Yeah. 100%.
So why do you say vulnerability is a strength, not a weakness? And I know I understand why. But I would like you to explain it for the audience.
I can't give you like a clinical or a textbook
No,
definition.
no, no.
All I can
I
do
want
is,
your definition. I want your
yeah,
definition.
yeah, I mean, I can just give you my experience. And I joined the army in 2002, spent a year at undelayed entry, and then I was active duty from 2003, barely 18 years old, till 2015. I was already 30 years old. That whole span of my life, I was told vulnerability is weakness. You don't ask for help. I actually witnessed some really good leaders of mine actually ask for help and they'd lose their careers over it. So I was approaching life after the army with this mentality, like, I can't be vulnerable. I have to carry all of this. I have to be quote unquote a man, right? Like a man, like
Mhm.
I'm tough. We don't cry. We don't bitch about our problems. We don't
Yeah.
XYZ insert, whatever we're not supposed to do here. And the ayahuasca is really kind of the thing, and I don't know how it did it, but it broke me wide open and showed me that it's okay to be vulnerable, and really that's the only way you move past all of this stuff is to look, man. The second I started reaching out to people like, man, I'm stuck, I need help, will you help me? I was amazed at how many people kicked that door down offering to help me. And so that's why I say it's actually the strongest thing you can do, because you have to be, there's a certain level of humility that comes with admitting that you need help, or being vulnerable in telling your story and sharing your failures and all of that. And so that helps keep your ego in check, which means you're doing things for the right reason. But people pick up on that. When you are a humble person, they genuinely want to see you succeed and they want to help you get to where you're going. And so that's why I say it's the strongest thing you can do. And nobody gets anywhere on their own. You need people to help you get to where you're going. It's true for me with everything that I have going on, and I run 3 companies right now. It's probably true for you with the podcast and all the adventures that you're having. Like, if you're not willing to be vulnerable and ask for help, good luck achieving your dreams or getting anywhere you want to go. And so that's why I say it's the strongest thing, because you have to take a slice of humble pie and be humble and display humility and ask for help. But then you get all these amazing people who, maybe they're not who you're used to. Maybe they're completely different from your friend group and completely different from anybody you've ever experienced in your life before. But I promise you, they're going to be some of your most powerful allies, and they're going to teach you a whole lot, and they're going to exponentially increase how fast you get to where you're going.
Yeah, definitely. What's the biggest lie or myth veterans are told about transition?
That you're a veteran and everybody's going to want to hire you. You'll have no trouble making six figures. And that's just simply, I mean, it's not true, man. I'm having conversations with veterans who've applied to over 700 jobs and they get the same generic response. We're sorry, but at this time we've chosen to go with a more qualified candidate, or, we think you're overqualified, or you're just not a good fit at this time, or you don't have enough experience. And it's like, man, like, where do I fit in here? You know what I mean? Like, it's simply not true. The transition process out it's a blanket fix for an individual problem, and what everybody needs is completely different. I needed, when I got out, somebody to tell me that it's okay to make your own path in the world, that you don't have to play in society's box where you get a 9 to 5, you work for the man till you're 65, you retire, and then you die. I needed somebody to tell me that I could be an entrepreneur, and here's the resources that you are uniquely qualified for because you are a veteran, and there's all these programs. It took me 8 years to find those programs. You know what I mean? Like, there's no reason for that. So I think that's the big myth. Like, I want veterans to know when they're getting out, whatever you want to do, you are allowed to do. Enjoy the freedom that you protected and fought for. Don't become a slave to it again.
Yeah, absolutely. And we still have some more comments coming through. This is very impactful. I'm a woman, wife, and mother, but I'm an advocate for men's mental health. I want men to find someone to talk to and ask for help if they need it. Absolutely.
100%. Too
Yep.
many men won't ask for help, and that's what I want to change, man. Just not just veterans, but men across the board.
Yeah, definitely. What reforms do you believe the DoD transition system needs immediately?
Oh God, where do I start, man? I guess it would be best to explain what my idea for this is. This may not make sense to a lot of people, but as I was getting out at kind of the height of Iraq and Afghanistan, we had so many guys that were hurt that they stood up a completely different unit called the Warrior Transition Unit. And your duty there was to just go to your medical appointments and get ready to get out. And so I think that that's what DoD needs to do. The regulation already says you have 365 days to get ready to transition out of the military. The big problem with that is leadership. Your unit, you still count against your unit, so they can't replace you until you're officially out. So you take up a slot in that unit, which obviously affects combat effectiveness and all of that. So what I want to advocate for when the right people start knocking on my door is we stand up a transition unit. We could do it for medical appointments. Why can't we do it for guys getting out, so that day 366 is your last day on your unit's books. Day 365 from your retirement or your ETS, you transition over to this unit. You immediately meet with a coach, a counselor, a therapist, whatever it is, to assess what does the individual need over the next year in order to become successful outside of the uniform. And I think that's where it needs to start. I don't have all the answers. However, what I do have is an incredible network of people who are way smarter than me, who can help me put together all the answers for that whole year. But that's what I would like to see. And so, I guess, to answer kind of shorter, like a more generic kind of response, is leadership hamstringing the individual who's about to get out and just bleeding them dry till the last minute is the biggest problem. Nobody has enough time to actually learn about the resources, then learn how to leverage the resources, then digest the resources, then plan what it looks like to be out, and kind of sit with that for a while, because they're too busy doing their duties and responsibilities inside of the unit until the last day that they get out.
Mm. How can everyday people like myself, families, employers, better support veterans in the transition?
Man, I get this question all the time. I really don't know, because it's such an individual problem. What each veteran needs is different. So I guess the best way would be, if you notice a vet and you think they're struggling, because I think at this point everybody can tell when we're wearing the mask, when we're not being honest about how we truly are, it's like, just offer a helping hand. Like, hey, man, I'm an ear. I'm here to listen if you want to talk. I may not be able to understand or relate to whatever it is you're going through, but I can listen. And I find, and obviously it's probably because I am a veteran, but I find that 9 times out of 10, when a vet reaches out to me, all they want is an ear to know that they were heard. You know what I mean? Just somebody to vent to. And so maybe start with that. Like, I'm sure that would be an incredible start to a relationship also, right? Like, you could make a really good friend and some strange veteran and some strange civilian, like, hey man, I see you're going through it. I may not be able to relate, but I'm here if you just want me to listen. And if that vet was to open up to you, I could see a really cool friendship happening out of that. I could see that being really powerful and starting to bridge that gap between, a veteran understanding civilian life and a civilian understanding what a veteran goes through. And so I think that could be a really powerful way, man.
I think that could be a dope show, actually.
You're right.
That could be a dope show. He's just a civilian and a veteran talking and just being able to show the perspective from like the civilian life. Like, hey, this is and help the transition. Like that would be a
Yeah.
dope concept, man. Yeah.
Yeah. See what I mean? It's just conversation comes up with ideas. I hope somebody runs with that idea. I
Oh
really
yeah,
do.
definitely. So what's next for the Strategic Veteran Podcast and your mission?
Hopefully, man. Hopefully, I'll get an opportunity to really stand in front of policymakers on the Hill and actually leverage these stories, these transcripts from all these vets that have come on and told my stories. I've had conversations with the likes of 2 and 3 star generals who are now out, who really believe in my philosophies, to full bird colonels from the Marine Corps and the Army that are retiring, to the FBI sleep psychologist who is uniquely qualified to say that there's merit to my philosophies. I really want the opportunity to stand in front of the people who are supposed to work for us, to listen to me, and all of this. This is not just me throwing shit at a wall and seeing what sticks, man. Like, I've got 150 transcripts of conversations. I can point to the data. Like, this is data driven. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, not only that, but I have the lived experience. So I want them to start listening to the people who have lived through this, because 90% of people on the Hill have no idea. They have no idea.
Yeah. So how do you keep your own fire lit while carrying so many heavy stories?
I think the podcast is how, man. The podcast is actually really cathartic for me. It's been a really interesting journey because I have so many episodes and I have so many still on the schedule to do. It doesn't seem like it's ever going to slow down, which is not a bad thing. I'm not complaining, but through this process, I've been able to, like last week, I recorded with a buddy of mine who was on my last deployment in 2012. I hadn't talked to him in 12 years. It was a surprise to get in the green room and see him in there, and then kind of getting his perspective, because he was a subordinate when we were in Afghanistan. He's a peer now, obviously, but to get his perspective and what he went through, and then compare that with my perspective and what I lived through on the same deployment. And I've had several guys come on. We were deployed in the same place, or we were in the same unit, but we had different perspectives because we weren't in the same job or in the same platoon or whatever. And so I think through that process, I get to unload a lot of my own stuff, but they get to unload their stuff in that shared space. We kind of just get to get it out there in the open. It's going to be on the internet forever. So we get to let go of it at that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. What's your message to a veteran listening right now who feels hopeless or stuck?
Reach out to me, call me, DM me, email me. You're not stuck. You're not alone in what you're thinking and feeling. And there are so many people out there willing to listen and help you find whatever it is that you need. Like, it's incredible how many amazing people are out there waiting to help you. You just need to ask for help.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Long term, what legacy do you want to leave in the veteran space?
I just want to be the guy I didn't have, man. That's really it. I don't ever want to make money on veteran advocacy other than sponsorships on the podcast. I think that's reasonable. But as far as helping veterans, talking to veterans, speaking for veterans, advocating for veterans, I just want to be known as the guy that's trying to make a difference and be the guy he didn't have, and that's it. I just want to be a decent human to other humans. That's it. That's the only agenda, man.
Absolutely. Well, brother, now you're gonna get the solo screen and you get to plug away and let everybody know where they can find you, websites, where they can help support everything, brother.
Yeah, guys, you can find me. Main platform is LinkedIn, Adam Peters, or at the Strategic Veteran. Also, my website, thestrategicveteran.com. If you're interested, I'll be speaking at Vet Socials 25, September 13th, and then also at the Military Family and Life Cycle Transition Summit at the University of Chicago from October 1st to the 4th. Hopefully, this will springboard getting me on more stages and spreading this message to more people. The podcast is on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, all the major platforms, plus a bunch that you probably never heard of. Please go give it a listen. If you don't want to give it a listen, maybe share it with somebody who you think can benefit from it. And that's really it. That's all I got, man.
Awesome. Thank you so much, brother, for being a guest, man. But don't leave just yet. Let me close out the show and we'll chat a little bit off the air. But man, thank you so much for being such a great guest.
Brother, thanks for having me, man. I love doing stuff like this, and it's always a pleasure.
The pleasure's mine, man. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Another great episode, man. That was awesome. I love it. If Adam's story resonated with you, go follow the Strategic Veteran Podcast and share this episode with a veteran in your life. Because sometimes hearing the raw truth from someone who's been there is the lifeline they're going to need. So stay strong, stay real, stay wise. Now your boy Wize does it. Peace out.